I love the Scream franchise. The first film is my favorite horror film of all time, and now we have a fifth movie. And this is the first of the movies to not be directed by the late great Wes Craven. What gave me confidence, however, is that the two replacement directors made Ready or Not. But what made me lose confidence was that the writer of The Amazing Spider-Man 1, 2, and Independence Day 2 had stepped in to write the movie instead of the original writer. Ugh. So, what did I think about Scream 5? Well, first off, the killings were really freaking cool. Ghostface is even more brutal and downright savage this time round. There were no intestines or anything like Scream 1 and 4, but there definitely was more of an emphasis on the stabs and the damage they caused this time round. Ghostface is also just as fun on the phone as ever as he torments his victims. And Mojo Jojo himself, Roger Jackson, does an amazing job as always. And I also like the comedy in the movie. There are a lot of funny scenes, as you can imagine, where they poke fun at horror filmmaking, as well as people referencing other movies and the rules. And there were some really great jokes and dialogue between our three original characters too. Speaking of which, I thought that Dewey was the best character in the film. He played the biggest part of the three, and he left the biggest impression. That's not to say that Sydney and Gale weren't great either. Sydney was great as usual, and her character keeps on evolving from movie to movie, which I really do like. And Gale was cool too, although she did feel like she had the least to do in this movie. And the movie did hold my attention from beginning to end, and I liked how it tried to tie in some of the previous films. Now, as for the stuff I didn't like, first off, I wasn't a fan of the music. It was passable, but it wasn't anywhere near as memorable as the music from Marco Beltrami, who scored the previous 4 films, and his musical genius really was missed. The other thing I didn't like was the characters. Now, they're not bad or anything, but they are the most forgettable group of characters out of all the Scream movies. I remember the faces of every character in the previous Scream films, but in Scream 5, aside from 3 of them, the rest are completely forgettable. And the main actress, I feel bad for saying this as she clearly is trying, but she wasn't a great actress. She essentially is carrying this movie, and she doesn't leave an impression like Neve Campbell did in the first Scream movie. Also, this is common for the franchise, but the Scream movies use tropes that they accuse other movies of doing, and I've been fine with it all this time, but Scream 5 definitely went too far. And they acknowledge that they're doing these things with jokes, but honestly, acknowledging that you're doing these things can only get you so far. Wes Craven, on the other hand, knew how to do that just enough, as he had a real talent with his Scream sequels in that way, but the directors of Scream 5 didn't succeed in that regard. Also, as good as the humor was, it didn't always work. I can't think of a single joke in the last 4 Scream movies that didn't get a smile or laugh out of me, but in Scream 5, there were some jokes that were too on the nose and some others that just weren't funny due to what they were making fun of and how poorly discussed the topics were, such as fandom. And they even referenced Rian Johnson's Star Wars The Last Jedi, and I think that they should have been the first movie to come down hard on how misguided that film was, but they didn't do that and just played it safe. So yeah, this was the first Scream movie where all the humor didn't work. Also, and this is the biggest problem with Scream 5 and could actually break the movie for many, and that is, for the first time in a Scream movie, I was not impressed with the reveal or motivation of the killer. The killer, or killers, in the previous movies, as far as their motivations went, they had the movie thing and the personal thing. Both combined together perfectly created a motive. This 5th film had the movie thing and no personal thing. So the motives of Ghostface in this movie didn't work, and that really is a problem, and it massively affected this film as a whole. Wes Craven and his 4 Scream films had the killers be movie fans, but crossed them over with the minds of serial killers. The reveal in this film felt more like crazy movie fans and nothing else, and it makes this film's attempted message and critique of fandom fall apart. Even though they did make a couple of good points as a fan that I actually agree with, but then the rest of the film was just drinking the Hollywood Kool-Aid. Hollywood is guilty of a lot of shit with the way they have poorly treated franchises and then called their customers sexist and bigots for not accepting their horrible writing. And this movie makes an attempt at discussing it, but it's not really saying anything that we haven't heard Hollywood tell us or accuse us of before. So this was a good idea in concept, but it was very bad in execution. Also, there are some people that got stabbed like crazy in this film, and they still ended up being alive somehow. One person we found out got stabbed 7 times and they were still fine by the end. This is the first of the Scream movies to do that to this extent. So yeah, I had fun with Scream 5, but it is definitely the lowest point of the series. And you can tell that there was genuine effort put into this movie, but it felt more like fan fiction at times rather than a true authentic sequel. And although the horror elements were fun, most of the new characters, Ghostface's motivation, the lackluster music, it really did bring down the overall movie for me. When I came out of the cinema, I gave the movie a 7, but upon reflection, the movie gets a decent 6 out of 10. If I had to pick which Scream movie to put on, I would rewatch any of the other 4 before I watched this one. Even the iconic opening scenes from the first 4 Scream movies are much better than the 5th one. The opening scene in this film is largely shown in the trailer, and it feels too much like a copy and paste of the first film. So yeah, the 2 words I have to describe this movie is fun and decent. It doesn't go beyond that in any way. Comment below and let me know what you thought about Scream 5 and the Scream franchise in general. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and be sure to donate $1 to me on Patreon and you will be able to watch my trailer reactions and spoiler discussions on certain movies, as well as other Patreon exclusive content. The trailer for Moon Knight will be coming out tomorrow, and I'll be making a trailer reaction to that on my Patreon as well. And as I said, it will only cost you $1 on Patreon to watch it, and you will be majorly helping to support the channel and allow me to do this full time. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I will see all of you very soon. Take care.